Hello, this is Sarah Soiledplant and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be going over some of my favorite plants of the moment, of spring, of the last month, whatever you want to call it. These are kind of the ones that have been sparking the most joy, impressing me the most, and just kind of being awesome. These plants are the ones that I've been admiring the most. If that sounds like something you're interested in, don't forget to like this video and subscribe down below for more content like this. And let's get to the video. The first plant I'd like to start with is my Sibu blue Pothos. I actually have two of these. The original that's hanging in my shower, I'll show you a clip right now, is not doing nearly as well as this one. These two Sibu blues are actually on opposite ends of the house, so this one is actually getting eastern light, the other one is getting western light. So clearly the eastern light's the way to go with this one. Also, I will say that I have this one in terracotta, the other one's in plastic, but the other one dries out a lot more. So I end up losing a lot of leaves on that other plant. This one, not nearly as much. I do find I have a love-hate relationship with Sibu blue because it's gorgeous. I love the color of it, and I think it's a beautiful leaf, very stunning plant. But they drop leaves like crazy. They need so much water. But the difference is this one seems to be tolerating being on the dry side more than the other one does. Not sure why. Maybe it's the lighting, maybe it's because it's in my shower. I'm not exactly sure, but either way, this one is fantastic. I actually put this on a trellis for a video, and I will link that in the eye for you. But this one is just, oh, it just keeps growing. You can see that all these little tendrils coming off have grown since that last video. I took one and wrapped it at one point because it was getting a little gangly. But all of these little things, well, this one doesn't have any leaves on it. But that's the other thing I noticed with Sibu blue, especially the one in my bathroom, is it'll grow and it'll skip X number of nodes before it actually produces a leaf. And I'm sure that's a lighting and or a watering issue, which I just have to figure out. But this one seems happier for the most part, and I think it likes being up. I think it likes that most of the leaves are getting some of that sunshine, and it's right in my bedroom, so I see it every single day, every single morning, every time I go to bed, I see it. It's an amazing plant. I'm really glad I put it on a trellis. The next plant I want to show you is actually my Philodendron Varicosum. Now, my Varicosum is an interesting situation. Hi, Maggie. So the Varicosum has been a little bit of an interesting story for me. My original plant, which is one that I got in a shipment from Indonesia way back in the beginning of my channel, and it grew, but it was very not cute the way it was growing. The leaves were getting continuously smaller, and it just didn't seem happy. So what I did was, back in October in my massacre video, I actually chopped this all the way down to the bottom and decided to propagate the pieces of the Varicosum. I had a couple of nodes as well as the top cutting, which had some leaves on it, and all of those are doing really well and they're propagating super easily. But this plant is the base plant that I was like, I'm sure it'll come back, but I have no idea what form it'll come in. And I think this is looking really cute. The leaves that are coming out are very healthy looking, good size considering like the size of the pot and the health of the plant. It's actually looking pretty darn good. You've got that nice coloration in it. On the back side, you've got that like ruby red. I'm putting this plant in as sort of a placeholder for all of my Varicosum. All of the cuttings and everything, they're just beautiful looking. And I'm really happy that the plant decided to start loving me. And it's one thing as like plant owners that is hard for me at least, is when a plant is struggling and you can tell it's struggling, just chop it off. Chop everything off. It'll be okay, honestly. If the plant doesn't grow back, then you had major root issues and it wasn't going to do well anyway, but at least you have those top cuttings that you can make a good plant out of. Like if your plant is not doing what you want it to, I did this with my Monstera adansonii. It was really beat up. It got spider mites, and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to start from scratch. I'm going to alcohol the whole thing down. I am going to chop it all the way off. I'm going to take all of the leaves off, and then I'm just going to make a bunch of like cuttings. I'm going to make a bunch of nodes, grow it in moss, and the original plant is doing fairly well for itself. That's definitely the case here, where I just cut it off, hope for the best. It was a little nerve-wracking because this is a more expensive plant to replace, but it's doing really well. Like, how can you say no to that? That's so cute. The next plant on my list is actually a Stramanthi. This is the one Stramanthi I own that loves me. I am a Calathea person. I love Calathea. I understand their struggles. I deal with it. But Stramanthi hate me. They die back. I have killed 2 different trio stars, and this one is kind of a variation on a trio star, and for some reason this one is doing okay with me. So fingers crossed, but every time I look at it, I am just so impressed with this plant. I love that the little stems, here, move the little tag. I love that the little stems kind of make a fan shape, and I've got another little shoot off to the side that started growing, so that means it's replicating itself. That is a good thing. But look at this. Look at how pretty it is. And the back of the leaves have that nice purple. Oh, I didn't say what this is. It's a Stramanthi, yes, and it's a variation on a trio star, but this one is called a magic star. Magic star is, you can tell it's a magic star because it has the little hash, like the little speckles and spots, as opposed to large chunks of variegation. It has some of the larger chunks, but the majority of the leaf has those little speckles on it. Another reason that I'm just obsessed with this one in particular, aside from it, you know, being alive as opposed to my other Stramanthi, this plant was right up next to and butting up against my Calathea zebrina that got really, really bad spider mites, and I'm still in the treatment process for, and this one didn't get them. I was treating this one as though it had it, just in case, but it didn't get spider mites, which, have you ever heard of such a thing, where a plant is like touching another one, it's a Calathea, and it doesn't get spider mites? Maybe the zebrina was a tastier option or something like that, but it definitely didn't go after this one, and it's still doing really well. I am constantly spinning this one in circles because this one definitely likes to move towards the light. So this one gets an A+ from me just because it loves me. I see trio stars, the regular trio stars, often enough, and I don't see these very often. I think I've only seen them in person twice, and one of the times I bought it. And it wasn't too expensive, it was 20 bucks, but you know, it's harder to find, but it's not expensive. It's not a rare plant. It's just some places don't stock it and some places do. The next plant on my list is my heartleaf lemon lime philodendron. It's part of my heartleaf philodendron collection that I'm kind of making, and trust me when I say I love all of them. They should all be on this list, but this one in particular is my standout from that group. They are a hardy plant. They're beautiful. They grow quickly. They can stand to be underwatered. They can suffer with, you know, a not ideal lighting, unlike some of the plants on this list, like my Sibu blue, but it can really handle almost anything you throw at it. But the reason that this one in particular is on this list is because I have it hanging over the side of a shelving unit, and this tendril has gone nuts. Look at this. So every time I'm in the shower, every time I'm taking a bath, I am staring at this vine, and it is just beautiful. You can see how big these bottom leaves are getting. These are sort of my winter section right here, and then this is the spring and summer section on the end, just getting gigantic, and I'm just obsessed with her. I want to chop and prop this at some point. I probably should while it's still spring. I will definitely chop this before summer's over at the very least, but for right now, I'm just enjoying how super long and beautiful this is. There's not really much to say about heartleaf philodendron. They just work. They're almost unkillable. They're beautiful. They're common enough to replace if something terrible happens. And honestly, I love them so much. They are so satisfying to have in your house, to grow. Oh, they're just beautiful. And if the vine thing isn't doing it for you, just chop it off, and it'll keep growing. It will not punish you for trimming it. It will not react badly to you chopping and propping this. This plant lives for it. I love this plant so much, and I try to take baths like once, maybe twice a week, just because I find them relaxing. I could watch YouTube videos and soak in a bubble bath, and I just stare at this plant every single time, and I love it. I love this plant so much. The last plant on my list, this one shocked me the last month for sure. Hey. This is my Philodendron Billia, billeti, what have you, however you want to pronounce it. Oh my gosh. This plant I have not had for super long. It was not cheap, but it was a really good specimen. It had these 3 leaves on it when I purchased it. When I bought it, I was a little bit nervous because it was definitely, I could tell from the way they potted the plant that it was a top cutting that was then put into soil and rooted in soil. So I was a little nervous because I wasn't sure when I bought it the condition of the roots, how it grew, because I was, you know, it had no visual growth points when I purchased it. It was just the 3 stalks coming out of the soil, so I was not exactly sure where the new growth was going to come from. So it made me a little nervous. I mean, it's a plant and it was definitely healthy, so I knew it would grow, but I was like, I'm not sure if this is going to be a long time before it eventually grows into something. I'm not sure. This might need to acclimate for a long time, and it did. It did not show any growth for probably 4 months before it shot these 2 leaves off. This one right here, which is a little crinkly. It's kind of pushed up against the wall. It is huge, so it keeps pushing up against things. And then I've got this one, which is the newest leaf right over here. It is still a little soft. It's not super hardened off yet. That is gorgeous. I've always heard good things about this plant, that people who have them tend to love them and they do really well in their care. They're not super picky or anything like that. You know, I've got a few sort of semi-rare philodendron. I've got some of the ones that are on like the lower price end, nothing super insanely fancy. But, you know, I have that Varicosum, I've got an Audubon, I've got a Pluminii, you know, I've got things like that. And then, so I figured the Billia would be in a similar vein to those, which were fine. They have their struggles, but for the most part, I've been able to keep them alive. Oh, the Gloriosum, that's another one. But this one seems to have acclimated to my space the quickest and had 0 downtime. Granted, I bought this in person. It was not shipped to me. I bought this in a local shop. Buying it locally might have been part of the reason why it's doing so well and didn't need a ton of acclimation. But I do know the shop I bought it from locally brought it up from Florida on a truck and sold it the next day. So the reason this one makes me so happy is just because in the early days when I bought it, it was stupid expensive. Even now, I probably should not have paid that much for this plant. And at the same time, it was doing a whole lot of nothing for 3-4 months. So this plant was definitely making me nervous. So the fact that it's growing and it's clearly very, very happy and it's all right with what I'm doing to it and giving it, it is just such a huge relief for me, especially because this is a plant that I've wanted for a while. It's been on my wish list. And so I'm glad that it seems to like me and hasn't done anything insanely terrible. I have a feeling that by the time winter hits, one of these 3 initial leaves are going to be gone. But you know, by then I'm going to have a ton of new leaves on this thing, and I'll probably have to put it in a new pot before the end of summer, because this pot is itty bitty. Like, this thing tips over all the time, so I actually have to prop it up with using the leaves to make sure it doesn't fall over all the time, because this is super top heavy. That is my Philodendron Billia. Thank you for watching me talk about some of my favorite plants. It's springtime, so this is the season for plant people like us. You know, everything seems to be doing, for the most part, really well. Everything's bouncing back, everything's looking healthy. To pick out a few of these plants means that they are just like primo on my mind, just amazing plants, love them. So thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you next time. Bye.